A big hello and a very warm welcome to the Digital India Summit series with me, Sonali Krishna. Today's discussion is something that will interest not just the industry, but all of us regular folk. We're talking entertainment. Now, gone are the days when watching content was restricted to television. For most of us, OTT platforms have become the go-to option for content. In fact, in the last 2 years, OTT platforms have witnessed a significant rise, becoming almost a $2 billion sector and the fastest growing segment of the Indian media and entertainment industry. But all's not rosy with OTTs. With only about 80 million paid consumers of the total 350 million OTT users in India, the question being posed today is how do platforms generate revenue to make it a sustainable model? Are Indians ready to pay top dollar for content, or have we just gotten used to paying dirt cheap prices for quality content? Well, joining me today to discuss the big dilemma that's growth versus pricing, I'm joined by an illustrious panel. Without further ado, let me introduce them. Gaurav Gandhi, Country Head, Amazon Prime Video. Sunil Ryan, President and Head, Disney Plus Hotstar. Danish Khan, Head, Sony Live, Sony Entertainment Television and Studio Next, Sony Pictures Network. And last but not the least, Samir Nair, CEO, Applause Entertainment. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking time out and joining us at the Digital India Summit. The first question I'm going to throw to the panel is what you've observed in the last 2 years in terms of sheer growth, and how are you looking at growth and revenue generation in the next 2 years? Because we all know that there has been a great expansion and proliferation of subscriber growth, of general usage of OTTs. We've all kind of become used to it thanks to the pandemic. But what does the future outlook really throw? You want to start, Sunil?
I think the last couple of years have been quite exciting, I'd say, for the streaming industry. But we still say it's still early days. We're in the first inning, on the first day of the test match. But the pandemic has definitely accelerated how people view content and consume content. I also think the overall ecosystem has really helped us advance our goals, right? Like one, you got a lot more people using smartphones, viewing videos on smartphones. You've got a lot of 4G penetration, 5G is coming very soon. You've got cheap access to phones and data. And lastly, right, we've also seen a lot of shift from before people just watching it on free platforms to now paid platforms, and thanks to the robust digital payment infrastructure that we have out there as well. So I feel like the secular trends that leads to this type of consumption in the industry are only in its early stages, and it's just going to keep accelerating, at least from what we're seeing in terms of growth. But you also asked another question, which is growth and profitability. As I said, we're so much in the early stages that I think our goal is like, how do we get more and more access to amazing content to more people? And then once people see the value for the content that they are actually consuming, I think eventually the market will figure out what it's all worth, right? So our focus really as much is like providing quality entertainment, which I think a lot of players are doing at really affordable prices.
Okay, fair point. Let me throw it to you, Gaurav, and this is really taking on from where Sunil has left. While I agree that we might be in our formative stages, and we're still getting used to OTTs and actually paying for content. Typically we've enjoyed content at a very subsidized rate. I think we still continue to do so. So clearly, your pricing for India is tactical right now. I understand that it is for subscriber growth, but how long do you think it will take for us to realize that we need to pay some money to get good content?
I'll answer your question in two parts. First of all, it's a misnomer to say Indians don't pay for content. We've been paying for content for a very long time. People go to theaters, pay for content. We've been paying for cable for the longest time. Pay TV exists. Of course, it's affordable, and it's at a price point which we believe it's is in comparison to some other countries it's much cheaper. But you have to also look at the fact that in a country which is so heterogeneous, which has affordability which ranges very widely across, you have to set your ambition. What is your ambition here? And if you look at the opportunity then of the fact that in a few years time there'll be as many Indians streaming content as they're watching TV today, and if you ask anybody in the pay TV business, and they'll tell you between 120 to 170 million pay TV homes, whose number you take, but basically if you take 120, the most conservative, that's a number you anyway get people paying for content. So to say that Indians don't pay for content or India doesn't pay for content is wrong. That's one. Second is that as we look at programming in this space, the kind of content being programmed today and the kind of access customers are getting, that was not available in the past. So if you look at the investments, people on this floor, in this room right now talking to you are making in terms of content creation. India had never seen that content. And in that sense, the premium, pay channels in India never existed, so to say. So if you're creating those, world-class, cinematic value series, which customers did not see in the past, and, they probably in the past started watching streaming content, which is more catch up. We understand why there was an AVOD model to start with. But as customers now go and experience that, they're more than happy to pay for that content.
Danish, I'm going to come to you in just a second. I just want to bring in Samir to get a perspective. Do you feel that there is a massification happening on OTTs right now? Or because you're trying to get a larger share of subscribers of India, and also because you're pricing it in a manner where you would like to get volume and then somewhat make that gap up?
So I think actually Sunil and Gaurav both spelled it out quite clearly. If you look at TV and the way TV is, suppose you take TV today and keep OTT out of the argument, TV apparently today has reached 50% subscription, 50% advertising. It's a 50-50 ratio. So that means half of all TV revenues come from subscription. Albeit it's the lowest cable fees paid in the world, and it's a high-class cable service that you get. But it is, and people are paying, and they've been paying since 1991. People pay their monthly cable bills. If you don't pay that, your cable operator comes and cuts it off. So people are paying that. Where the opportunity now is that obviously, the streaming services have come, and they are like either an add-on to TV, which is what all the big broadcasters are doing, is they offer their catch-up services on that, or it's a brand new, cinematic television version of it with movies and all of that. Either way, it's a new technology. It's, it's totally distinct from TV in the context of being linear, in the context of being appointment viewing. This is a different world, a different way of consuming television. But because cable is so cheap in India, we are not really a cord cutting country. There's nothing to cut the cord. It's too cheap. So you have this as an add-on and you're moving on. But as it goes along, I would think that, as you get all your services, you will pick and choose. You will pick and choose whether you want to pay for TV subscription as well as OTT subscription. I think so. And I think the big, sort of low-hanging fruit for the streaming business is the TV subscription revenues. Because if the big broadcasters have all the TV channels anyway available on their streaming apps, it's a give or take thing. Maybe another generation out, there won't be need to pay for cable because you're just anyway getting everything on 4G and 5G. So the opportunity is there. Indians are a content hungry market. We love our content. We watch everything that's available. We watch movies, we see sport, we, consume news as if it's going crazy. I think we got way too many news channels. Maybe that should be, sort of slimmed down a bit. So I think as it grows forward, as you've got better content, as you've got more opportunities, as you've got better services, and what the one good thing the streamers have done to replace TV in that sense is that you get everything on the same streamer, right? Otherwise, originally, you had your South Indian channels and you had your Hindi channels, and it was always that you can't watch a Malayalam film unless you don't subscribe to Asianet or something. Now it's all on Amazon or it's all on Sony Live. It's in the same place. So I think these changes that are happening are quite seismic. So I think the opportunity is huge. I completely agree with them. I think the next 10 years is going to be real boom time. Though, of course, difficult boom time.
Well, yeah, to build on one point Amir mentioned about mass niches. I think the big difference, and you also mentioned about massification, I think that we have to remember that we are not broadcasting to a billion, we're unicasting to the billion. We are actually going to be, it's about segmentation. So you're not going to massify content, but you're going to basically look at addressing those segments with specific content. Segments are large enough itself to address. So therefore, it's not in the broadcast space. one of the reasons was the business model of TV ratings and dependence on that led to, a kind of formulaic content. The business model is very different. So, Sameer's phrasing was so accurate there. The mass of niches is because ultimately it's about those segments to be addressed. And that's why the models being different doesn't lead you to the same place.
So you heard all three of them. Do you think, what would you pose as the challenges for today as a person who's, leading one of the top OTT, platforms of the country?
I think rightly said, we have 600 million plus smartphones, inclusive of larger device, and around 350 million people are watching video in various devices. What I believe the opportunity is, what all three of them spoke earlier, is that there is a large numerical opportunity. But having said that, I believe that we shouldn't let this opportunity go by this discussion about growth versus profitability, because India is a large market, and it is there is a segments. Okay, segments in terms of disposable income. Okay, I think two things that is very, very critical is that inherently there are people who can pay more, and inherently people who can pay less. Okay, so to have a single pricing for one nation might not work here. So my belief is that what's TV missed out is segmenting the market in a way that you can have multiple market proposition in terms of content and pricing playing parallelly. Okay, and I believe that digital gives us an opportunity to correct that mistake that we did with television. Like Gaurav rightly said, one bark, which basically talks about the rating or a percentage of people watching without giving qualitative or disposable income, bringing that in equation when you are talking about number of people, right? So what happened in telecom, both in handset as well as in the connection, if you look at it, the market is properly segmented. You have telco, basis on the usage and the affordability, from 100 rupees pack to around 800 rupees pack, right? That's how telco has grown.
But Danish, I just want to stop there and just interrupt there. Let's talk about telcos, right? On an average, my bill is about 450 to 500 bucks a month. I've never paid
Absolutely.
such a cheap bill, for the longest time. That is why, I think telcos are suffering. So I see also the fact that I understand your point that there should be niches and there should be, differentiation. But today I feel, and I see for all of you there, as a consumer, I'm super happy. But my point is that we're also getting it really cheap. So how long will this lovely treat last for us?
No, I said it will last the moment till the time that you have one price. Okay, the moment you segregate your content and pricing in a different segment, I think we should be able to create the value proposition. When I was talking about giving an example of telco, I was basically talking about the segmentation in which they have sized the market. But the pricing is something because of the different segment will need different content, and there will be some blockbuster like a cricket, which will, talk to all segments. That apart, I think content and pricing segments will be evolved, and these are early days, like everybody said. I think in next 2 to 3 years, we will see that segment coming out in India. And because of the size of each of the segment, like Sameer said, I think there is a profitable business proposition in each of the segment if played well.
Sunil, 2 questions bundled into one. One is, once we hit normalcy and, COVID is permanently eradicated from all our lives, do you think in-house entertainment trends that we're witnessing today will continue? And B, of course, if you could help me out with, OTT journeys in other markets that have started their journey much before us and how that's panned out.
Nobody knows, but we have a hypothesis. that generally speaking, a lot of people were in COVID spending a lot of time at home. We still think a significant majority of the people watch content on mobile phones. So the fact that people get out, more commute is just going to continue. It's just going to be a different, in fact, we saw a different shift. During the COVID phase, we saw a big, a significant shift towards connected living room devices, right? And we saw while mobile increased, it wasn't increasing at the same pace. We feel like now that people are going to get out, I think mobile consumption is going to increase. And as you heard from, Gaurav, that we have a lot more content coming. So I just think with more access to more devices, more types of plans, and people being on the road, I think consumption is just going to increase. The mix of the consumption, whether they watch in connected screens or mobile screens, it will continuously shift. But the reason why all of us are creating more and more content is because, as I think everybody has mentioned, the demand is there, and the demand for quality content is higher than it ever was. I feel like I think people have been used to, I'll just watch whatever's on TV versus let me choose what I want to watch. And I think people have really taken that into their way of life. And it's our jobs as providers to give them what they need. So I'm very optimistic, and as you can see, very bullish about this as well. And your what are the phases? I mean, I look at this streaming phase as a 3-phase stage, right? One, streaming was first stage was all about the early adopters, what I'd call as like people who wanted to watch all the top English shows. So we had a little bit of the affluent audience. I feel like the second stage, which we're in right now, we have a pure local product market fit for what we've produced, right? We've got, multiple tiers, multiple packages. We've got diversity of small content. We've got pricing right. We've got an ad model right. I think the third phase, which a lot of other countries are going, is more personalization, more interactivity in what people do. Also looking at very different ways to consume content. We go from short form to long form. I think those are the trends that we'll start to see, as opposed to, the typical 8-episode series. I think all those things will start to innovate. And I think the last thing will also happen. I think India is, we've got north of 50 million subscribers in India as a base, overall as an industry. In other countries like developed countries, people average 2 to 2.5 subscriptions for entertainment. I think that will also start to evolve in India, right? People will see a lot of value for the content. And I think, as Samir said, people will think, should I pay for cable and this? They may get to a package of different services. And I think the average number of services used by a household will also increase. So that's at least how I see the stages progressing.
Fair point. Gaurav?
Yeah, I think building on Sunil's points, I think I'll offer two different things. One is that what streaming has done is completely taken away the linguistic and geographical barrier to content. So there's no longer a view about, this content is not in my native language. And that opens the opportunity not just for customers to enjoy more, but for creators to create content which can have a really large, market for them domestically and globally, right? So I think that's going to really grow and expand even more so. I've talked about many times about 50% of viewing of our local language films coming outside their home state. So, and second is like to the second point you're making about it being more mainstream. The fact that today paid streaming services are consumed in the in across the length and breadth of the country, we are seeing our content being consumed in 99% of countries' zip codes, for example, or pin codes, for example. And the third part we are seeing is that how Indian content is actually being consumed outside of the country, and we are seeing a big demand for that, and not just from the Indian diaspora. 1 in 5 of our customers, of our Indian content is already outside of India in that sense, right? Movies are getting reach of 180 to 200 countries, being watched there, not just available. And I think we are on the point of a breakthrough where Indian shows, and movies will be becoming global hits. So that's also a point. And I think finally, the point we started off with, where customers more and more being open to pay for content because it's high quality content, and therefore, and to Sunil's point, paying for more services if they believe they're right fit for that. And there'll be collaborative models, and there'll be more, there'll be more innovation on the model itself, not just being only isolated as pay or free or any of those. So I think that's what's really, in my view, coming up. And I think the change going towards more and more streaming is permanent, Sonali, and is accelerated, and that's how it'll end up being.
Sameer, you want to give me your last words on your outlook in the next 5 years in terms of whether it be subscription or pricing for OTT?
The last words are always scary, but I don't want to repeat what they're saying. But the one thing that I've been sort of seeing and thinking about is that as this streaming sort of ecosystem has grown, and as all these things have happened, no broken down language barriers, geographic barriers, even domestic and international barriers, what it has done is that it's placed a lot of content on the same platform. In the process, what has happened with consumers is that they are now getting increasingly accustomed to seeing very high quality content. And in that context, I think the pressure on the Indian content creators is going to keep increasing. Because what happens is that we were in the past on TV able to live in our own little ecosystem. We lived in our own echo chamber. We did our stuff. We reached, wild ratings, wild revenues, whatever we did, but it was just us. And the consumer had no way to compare. Now, as Gaurav says, there is an English show, a Malayalam show, a Hindi show, and a whatever, all next to each other. And this jostling is going to make consumers more and more sort of, more critical, more demanding, all of that. And I think that's really important, because in order for Indian content to stand alongside with all the international content that's anyway available, you're soon going to compare. So far, we used to always say, oh, this is an Indian show. Don't compare it to Money Heist. But why not compare it to Money Heist? So the minute that starts to happen, that's got to change the game considerably, and that costs more money to do. Which comes back to where you started out from, is that there is growth, there is feeding the appetite, and there's profitability. So these are interesting times. We have to get more efficient. We have to get more smarter. It's not about throwing money at the problem. It's not about being drunken sailors. You've got to be smarter about this, and it's going to get better as we go along.
Danish, before I close, and thank you all.
No, I think what Walkman did to music, OTT has potential to do to video consumption, and that's happening. Having said that, I think it's early days. What will drive this, like Sameer said, is the quality of content. The quality of content and some blockbusters will expand the market, will ensure that consumer feels the value of this content and hence willing to pay. And overall, the pricing will come with the growth. I don't think the pricing is going to be a big factor, but the quality of content is going to drive the expansion of the market and create value for everybody. That's my sense.
Well, I'd like to say, as a consumer of all your content, thank you so much for upping the game and giving it to us at such a nominal rate. More power to you. Here's to better content, better pricing, and a profitable business. Thank you so much, everybody.